Shalom, welcome, welcome. You must have heard the rejoicing. What a high, oh, what an adventure. Oh, to give it all to God and to trust Him completely. Oh, I'm sorry, it's always good to have guests. Thank you. You must have heard the rejoicing. You have to excuse me, but welcome to my home here between Ramah and Bethel in this great country of Ephraim. You see, I am just so overwhelmed at the faithfulness of Yahweh. I am Deborah, judge of Israel and prophetess to the people. We are rejoicing and singing and dancing over the victory that God has given me, Jael, Barak, and the people of Israel. Oh, the people of Israel. Finally, they cried out over and over again. We've seen this pattern in their lives of doing evil in the sight of the Lord and being led into bondage and then being delivered only to do evil in the sight of the Lord again. Again and again, we've seen this pattern in their lives. It's apostasy. And every time it leads them straight to captivity. But this time, their sin caused them to live under cruel, harsh oppression for 20 years under the king Jabor of Hazor. You see, his commander of the Canaanite army, Sisera, had 900 chariots fitted with iron, and he ruled cruelly over them and intimidated them for 20 years. But finally, the people of Israel, they remembered their God, and they cried out to Yahweh. And it was during that time that I sat just over there under that tall tree, the palm of Deborah. I sat there, and the people of Israel, they come to me in my courts, and I help them to settle their disputes. It was there from where I led the nation of Israel. And it was there where I heard the Lord. So I sent for Barak, son of Abinoam, from the tribe of Naphtali. And I said to him, the Lord, the God of Israel, commands you. Go, take your 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun and lead them to Mount Tabor. And I will lead Sisera, the commander of Jamin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River and give them into your hands. Well, Barak was not fully convinced. So he said to me, well, if you go with me, I will go. But if you don't go, I won't go. My heart was saddened by this stipulation of his to obedience. But confident in the directive from the Lord, I agreed. But I told him, because of your course of action that you're taking, the honor will not be yours. Sisera will be delivered into a hand of a woman. Well, of course, at that time, I didn't know what that would look like. Barak probably thought I was talking about myself. And even I possibly might have thought that. And the honor did partly go to me, but what I did know that is in my life as a woman leading an entire male-dominated society, I had to learn to do what God said, to answer his call, whether or not I knew if the people would follow me. When I learned to trust God and give him my all, he set me in a place to rule, to lead the people of Israel to deliverance, and to fulfill my call. Barak, too, would have to learn this truth, and I found wisdom in supporting Barak with my experience. And so I went with Barak to Kadesh. There, Barak summoned the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali, and 10,000 men, 10,000 ready and agreeable men, went under his command on one word from the Lord. Well, I also went with them. Many other men from tribes joined and added their strength, their willingness to go, especially those from the tribe of Issachar. But not everyone did. No, Dan, Asher, Reuben, ooh, there was much searching of heart. Much searching of heart. Their motives, if they were willing to give up the life of comfort for the risky business of pursuing promise. But my heart rejoices and is with those who readily said yes, who were willing to be the catalyst of change by laying down their very lives. Before now, the highways were abandoned. Nobody was on the roads. Nobody wanted to even go that way. They took winding paths to avoid the band of spoilers who had evil plots. And the locals, they were hopeless. They had no fight left in them to stand up for anything that they wanted or believed in. But then, I arose. Deborah arose, a mother in Israel. And the people, the ready people, they went down to the city gates with enthusiasm and chanted, "Wake up, Deborah! Wake up! Arise! Break out in song! Arise, Barak!" And so the princes of Israel, they agreed to go, and great strength and enthusiasm came upon them. And so, up on Mount Tabor, Sisera from Jabin's army, he saw that we were up there. And all of a sudden, he sent his whole army and his chariots. He summoned them down to the river. And in that moment, I said, "Barak, it's time to go." And so, the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Go. I encouraged him with this one question and needed no reply. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you? So Barak went down to Mount Tabor with 10,000 men, willing men following him. At Barak's advance, the Lord rerouted Sisera through a mighty rain. All of a sudden, the clouds filled up with rain, and it rushed down on them. Their chariots' wheels got stuck in the mud, and the troops didn't know what to do, and so they jumped off of the chariots, and they began to flee, and the men overtook them by the sword, every one of them, all the way up to Harosheth. And Sisera got away. He jumped off and he ran and he got away, and he was the only one who was not taken by the sword in that hour. But he ran towards the tent of Jael. And Jael, she was the wife of Heber, and Heber had an alliance with the people of Jabir. Well, she greeted him at the door. She saw him fleeing from the people, and she said, come in, my lord, let me help you." And she took a blanket and she covered him up. And as he was covered and concealed, he opened the blanket and he said, "I'm really thirsty," in his fatigue. And as exhausted as he was, he said, "I'm so thirsty, can you please get me something to drink?" Well, in her kindness, she not only got him something to drink, but she brought him milk. She offered him milk. So he drank the milk, and she concealed him once again. And he said, "Jael, go to the door and stand in the doorway. I'm very tired. And if anybody comes this way looking for me and asks, 'Have you seen me?' tell them no." And so she said, "Okay." And so he concealed himself again, and he went to sleep. Oh, he was exhausted after the fight they were in, the warring that had taken place. Jill went to the front door and stood there for a minute, and she turned and she bent down. She picked up the tent peg that was holding her tent tight, and she walked over to him, and she took it with the hammer and she right in his temple, all the way into the ground. Jill, the wife of Heber, killed Sisera. Sisera was delivered into the hands of a woman. It was not Deborah, but it was Jael. She drove that peg through his temple into the ground, and he died unexpectedly by the hand of God. There you have it. Most blessed of women be Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, most blessed of tent-dwelling women. He asked her for water, and she gave him milk. In like a noble's bowl, curdling milk she gave him. Her right hand took the tent peg, her other hand the worker's hammer. She struck Sisera, she crushed his head, she shattered, pierced his temple. At her feet he sank, he fell, there he sank. Dead, he fell, there he sank. And through the window, appeared Sisera's mother. She asked to herself, why is the chariot taking so long to come? Why is the clatter of his chariots so far in the distance I do not hear? And the wisest of her ladies answers her with reassurance. Indeed, she keeps saying to herself, well, are they not finding and dividing the spoil? 1 or 2 women per man, and royal garments, colorful garments embroidered, highly embroidered garments for my neck and yours as plunder. But Sisera did not return. And on that day, God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites. Their hand was heavy on him, heavy on the king of Canaan, until there was nothing left of him. Rejoicing with great awe, I sing and I shout. I'm overwhelmed by the Lord. May all your enemies perish, O Lord. But may all who love you be like the sun when it rises in its strength. And I know for many years, 40 years later, this land will endure great peace. Now, returning home, you found us with such great excitement, filled, singing and dancing and laughing, because we knew what God had said. But it still took faith. To believe is to act. We took action by abandoning every other agenda we had. I arose. Barak and I, we arose. And because we arose, others arose. And with great rejoicing, Yahweh, with great rejoicing, we recall God's faithfulness to his word of deliverance. And so we sing this song. God did so many wonderful things in the midst of us. And today, I'm filled with joy, filled with so many truths. And these I leave with you. Obey God wholeheartedly. Great reward and honor will be yours. Trust him more than your own reasoning or earthly understanding. His arm is mighty to save, and there's nothing that's too hard for him. For me, that reward was the honor of leading the entire nation of Israel as a woman during very unlikely times. I couldn't rely on what people might have thought, or if they would have followed me. I had to do it because God said. I was fully persuaded by God that even though I was a woman, even though I could have 1,000,001 excuses, but God authorized me. And God also authorized Barak. But Barak was unsure. I sent him on the word of our faithful Lord to gather 10,000 willing volunteers. I imagine he was unsure if he even himself was convinced to go, even willing to go. Unsure if those 10,000 men would follow him. He was unsure if he was the one. Unsure if victory would indeed come. But we can be sure that God can be trusted. He is faithful to his word now and forevermore. When you obey God wholeheartedly, be a willing volunteer. When God calls, answer. Answer with a glad heart. Where is it that you might not be a willing volunteer right now, where you hear God calling you and you are holding back? Because where God guides, he will provide. Search your heart. Search your heart and surrender to the call. It was the answer to God's plan that ultimately led a band of united volunteers to overthrow an army of thousands of warriors and 900 iron-fitted chariots. To you, it'd be like saying 900 military tanks. Woe to them. Woe to us in the church, to those in Zion. Is that you warming the pew? Step up as a willing volunteer. Are you enjoying your delicacies in the time of preparation? Join the ranks and head to battle. Step up as a willing volunteer. And step up as a willing volunteer no matter the cost. Risk it all. Recklessly abandon your plan, your understanding, and your comfort to follow God's purpose and His promise for your life. I did. JL did. Brock did. The 10,000 willing volunteers who united for a greater purpose other than themselves. They did, and it was worth it. It was victory. I don't know. I don't know what brought you to this hillside today. It might have been you hearing the song of rejoicing and your heart longing to rejoice as well. It may be that you need your own victory. And you may not know my song. You may not have heard it before you came. But God has a song for you as well. And your song may be different, but we all know this one song. And if you know it, please sing it with me. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. The mountains are His, the rivers are His. Do you know the song? The skies are His handiwork too. My God, our God, is so big, so strong, and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do for you. Amen.